Footnotes from the Life Application Study Bible. The way refers to the group of people who follow the way of Jesus Christ, also called Christians. Artemis, or Diana, was a false goddess of fertility. She was represented by a carved female figure with many breasts. A large statue of Artemis, which was said to have come from heaven, was in the great temple of Ephesus. This temple was one of the wonders of the ancient world. The festival of Artemis involved wild orgies and carousing. The religious and commercial life of Ephesus reflected and relied on the city's worship of this pagan deity. When Paul preached in Ephesus, Demetrius and his fellow craftsmen did not quarrel with his doctrine. Their anger boiled because his preaching threatened their profits. They made silver shrines of the goddess Artemis. The craftsmen knew that if people started believing in God and discarding the idols, their livelihood would suffer. Demetrius' strategy for stirring up a riot was to appeal to his fellow workmen's love of money, and then to encourage them to hide their greed behind the mask of patriotism and religious loyalty. The rioters couldn't see the selfish motives for their rioting. Instead, they saw themselves as heroes for the sake of their land and beliefs. Paul often sought others to help him in his work. On this occasion, his traveling companions were Aristarchus, who would accompany him on other journeys, and Gaius, probably not the same Gaius mentioned in Romans chapter 16, verses 23. Paul wanted to go to the amphitheater to defend his companions, but the other believers wouldn't let him, fearing for his safety. The officials who begged him not to risk his life were government officials responsible for the religious and political order of the region. Paul's message of Jesus had reached all levels of society, crossing all social barriers, and giving Paul friends in high places. The mob had become anti-Jewish as well as anti-Christian. This Alexander may have been pushed forward by the Jews as a spokesman to explain that the Jews had no part in the Christian community, and thus were not involved in the economic problem of the silversmiths. The city of Ephesus was under domination of the Roman Empire. The main responsibility of local city leaders was simply to maintain peace and order. If they failed to control the people, Rome would remove the appointed officials from office. The entire town could also be put under martial law, taking away many civic freedoms. The riot in Ephesus convinced Paul that the time had come to move on. But it also showed that the law still provided some protection for Christians as they challenged the worship of the goddess Artemis in the most idolatrous region in Asia.